All right, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Introduce the folks up here at the table with me. To my right, Superintendent Degner, Directors Pilcher Hayek, Eastham, and Williams. To my left, Vice President Malone, Directors Clausen and Finch, and Recording Secretary Kim Colvin. We can get right into it because our first item is our student representative update. And I'm going to look at my list here and see who we have first. First up, we have West High. Do we have our West High rep? All right. How about City High?
Hi, my name is Ayla Bashir, and I am one of the co-class presidents.
And I'm Rebecca McKaylee, and I'm the other co-class president at City. We have a quick update tonight. Our musical cast and crew are working very hard, and the musical Big Fish will be performed the last week of April this month. Little Hawk, our newspaper, won the Online Pacemaker Award, which is only given to 3 newspapers in the country. Our print edition also won 3rd in country. Our choirs just competed. Their week of concerts, they performed wonderfully. Jazz Band qualified for Jazz Champs in Des Moines, and they also hosted a jazz showcase at City High, which was very fun. Our mock trial had 51 students participate this year, and 3 separate teams all qualified for state, so that was very impressive.
Our literary magazine, The Review, just published their spring edition featuring a bunch of different creative writing pieces from students. Our boys track and field just went to a big track meet in Des Moines. Student Senate is planning prom, and they're also hosting, or I guess we're also hosting a blood drive on Thursday the 21st, so we hope to get a good turnout at that. And then we're looking forward to Earth Day celebration on the 22nd, and that's hosted by City, West, and Liberty.
Thank you.
Next up, we have representative from Liberty High. Okay, any representative from Tate? All right, let's go ahead and move on to our ICEA update, and Brady Shutt.
President Eystone, Vice President Malone, directors, Superintendent Degner, thanks for having me once again. I think maybe the soccer match might have something to do with attendance for the West and Liberty students. So I want to start off just as, with a reminder as the legislative session winds down that we all have to continue our advocacy and attentiveness. There's still a couple of bills that are out there, particularly related to the student scholarships or vouchers that haven't been resolved yet. So I just want us to continue advocacy on that, really reach out to folks across the state so we can make sure that public dollars go for public education, which I thought, Kristen, that was just fantastic graphics, so we just need to keep that work up. I'd also like to, on behalf of ICEA, welcome formally, I don't think I've done this yet, Janet. I know she will be on our agenda tonight. I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with her, and it was a fantastic conversation. And I can just tell you from my experiences and from what I'm hearing, she's just doing a tremendous job in the Ombuds role, and that office is really a huge value add for the district. And my last thing, I'd like to just thank Chase, Ramey, and Les Finger for all of their help as we prepare for the negotiations that we'll be doing with our groups. And you know, we do a lot of things differently, I think, in the district, to our credit, and this is certainly one of them. And that's because we do a lot of work in advance to make sure that we're all working on the same page and with the same information. So Chase, thank you. And Les in the business office is just really efficient and super attentive to any information that we might need and help me with any questions that I have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brady. That takes us to community comment. I'll just remind speakers that you will have 4 minutes to speak, and there will be a clock on the screen to help you keep track of that. And I'm going to call everybody off in the order that I got them. We're going to try and hold us to the 1 hour at the beginning of the meeting. But we'll just get right into it. Our first up is Ella DeYoung.
Can I start whenever?
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ella DeYoung, and I'm a junior at West High School.
My love for tennis began when I was 10 years old. I competed across the nation with aspirations to win a state championship and further my tennis career. That was taken from me, and I am therefore here today to voice my concerns about West High's girls tennis coach and athletic director and the director of equity and employee relations for ICCSD. Did that seem long to you? That was only 15 seconds. Last year, in 15 seconds, I experienced unforgettable traumas at the hands of district employees. It felt like an eternity to me when I was being touched inappropriately by the tennis coach, and again when I was reading the district report. ICCSD is not perfect, and I'm not afraid to speak up. It's time for ICCSD to start supporting their students. During last year's tennis season, I was made to feel terrible about myself because of the tennis coach's actions, which includes the things she said to me and the ways she touched me. When I was quite vulnerable, the coach had me stand close to her in a sort of hug after I had only asked to talk to her. She had her arm around the bottom of my back with my body clutched to her. She reached her hand under the bottom of my tank top and started rubbing my back in circles close to the back of my sports bra. I was frozen in shock. She kept saying things and I kept nodding, wanting her to stop touching me, to stop getting closer to me, and to stop telling me it was going to be okay. I was not okay, and this contact was not okay. I wanted to wriggle out of her grasp and into a little ball. I wanted to tell her to stop, but I was afraid. I put up with the coach touching me, but then she made me feel terrible again. Similar to the experience I had earlier in the season, she started with the deep circular motions, only it was on my legs when she insisted on spraying sunscreen on me as I laid on the ground. I really did not want the coach touching me at all. Her touch gave me instant chills. Her hands just kept coming closer and closer to the place where no person's hand should be, without the permission of the individual being touched. I kept screaming in my head for someone to make it stop. Her hands made it all the way up to where the spandex part of my tennis skirt ends, near the bottom of my butt and upper thighs. She did not rub sunscreen into the other player that she sprayed, just me. After the athletic director contacted me in June due to other players complaining about the coach, I told him what happened when he asked me if the coach had touched me. After the athletic director concluded his review, we were encouraged to file with the district. We did, and the district concluded in October that the coach did put her hand underneath the back of players' shirts, and at least one of the incidents involved her putting her hand underneath the bra straps of a player. She did rub the thighs of players, but her actions were okay because she explained that she was consoling a player, massaging a player's injury, or attempting to look out for the well-being of the player. The district did not specifically address whether the coach's touching had an adverse impact on me or my teammate. The district just concluded that no indecent contact with the child occurred, and the coach should refrain from touching players as much as reasonably possible to protect herself from future allegations. The district made clear to me that my feelings do not matter, and if I continue to play tennis, the coach could continue to touch me underneath my clothing and close to my private parts if the coach thinks she should do so. Many of my teammates and I also described ways that the coach lied, made insensitive remarks, retaliated against us, and belittled us. 8 of 9 varsity players do not feel safe, supported, or as though they can trust the coach, and the district refused to act. We are not able to compete this season with her as the coach. Each day that passes, the district is denying us an opportunity to play a sport that we love. Please do something.
All right, next up, Caroline Moscardo.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Moscardo. I'm a current senior at West High School and a former member of the West High varsity girls tennis team. When I was 6 years old, a kindergartner at Weber Elementary, I began playing tennis, and I immediately developed a love for the sport. As I continued to learn the game and refine my strokes, making my way through elementary and junior high school, I looked forward to playing with my friends in high school and representing West High by doing something we had worked hard for and enjoyed for many years. I am here tonight to voice my concerns about the ICCSD's investigation and complaint process after my teammates and I came forward about our experiences with the West High varsity girls tennis coach after my junior year season, or last year. After playing on the tennis team during my freshman and junior years, I've chosen to not go out my senior season because of a lack of change, due to a lack of procedure and action at the administrative level following the investigation of the West High varsity girls tennis coach. In June 2021, my teammates and I brought our concerns to the West High Athletic Director. Over 6 months, my teammates and I recounted our stories repeatedly to various administrators and people in power, yet we were not taken seriously. It was discouraging and draining to continuously retell the same stories from the tennis season to multiple administrators, seemingly to no avail. It was never clear to us what the West High Athletic Director's investigation procedure and process were. The tennis coach was not even aware that an investigation was taking place until mid-September, over 3 months after the initial investigation began. We brought our concerns to both school and district-level administrators and were not told of anything that would be done to improve the conditions on the team. Moving forward, we were not informed of protection from retaliation by the coach. We have consistently been told that this is a personnel matter which cannot be discussed, a personnel matter that directly involves us as students, with no further follow-up, lacks transparency and closure. We deserve to be heard. We deserve a valid explanation. We deserve to be reassured. We deserve the truth and change. The lack of organization and transparency throughout the investigation speaks to the lack of procedure and accountability at the administrative level. This lack of procedure and accountability has ultimately translated into a lack of change on the West High Varsity Girls tennis team. A coach maintaining her position appears to take priority over the requests and concerns shared by student athletes. Since the season began 3 weeks ago, 2 former varsity girls players quit the team because the change we were reassured of was not there. The tennis coach has posted multiple times on her social media accounts, accusing former varsity girls players, myself and Ella included, of spreading hate and false judgments. Any hope for true reconciliation between the players and the coach has been lost. The purpose of high school sports is to provide athletes with a safe, constructive space in which they can grow as both a person and an athlete. High school teams are designed for the players' benefit, not their coaches. However, the varsity girls tennis team has been denied this experience. During my time on the tennis team, I felt unsupported, disrespected, and unvalued. I felt like I was only seen as a player who could win meets and state titles, not a person who had a life outside of the sport. While the West High varsity girls coach demanded respect, she did not reciprocate it. Her negative comments and coaching transformed the tennis courts, a place I once found comfort in, into somewhere that felt unwelcoming and hostile. The Iowa City Community School District's motto is child-centered, future-focused. If this is true, I implore you, the ICCSD School Board, to reevaluate the district's investigation and complaint process with students' best interests in mind. The investigation and complaint process should protect your students and ensure that preventable abuses do not repeat themselves. Although my time playing tennis for West High was cut short, I hope that future players will not have to experience what I had to go through for administrators to make changes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Kyle Clare.
Hello, I'm Kyle. I am 18. I'm a freshman at the University of Iowa. I'm originally from Illinois, and this is my first time speaking to you. It was brought to my attention at a recent community meeting that there was someone speaking at one of the schools glorifying violence against police officers, saying that we had to thank black trans women throwing bricks at the cops for rights. I mean, I can look at the back of your laptop, Mr. Sean. I still don't see exactly what side you're on in this community and what you're trying to represent. But I think bringing someone who not only was glorifying violence against police officers, but also has a mugshot and has a criminal record to a high school is a bit shocking, especially after I just sat here and listened to these young women stand up here talk about how the Iowa City School District has not done its due diligence in rooting out predators in their school system. I'm serious. The fact that you have people in this school system bringing people in, trying to raise a generation of activists to glorify violence against police officers. I'm glad I wasn't here in 2020 when the old Capitol was spray painted with all those things. I'm sure you all saw it and you were all here and you know what happened. So think a little bit clearer when you decide to invite guests to your school districts. Because this is why I came to Iowa. I didn't come to Iowa because I wanted to be in the same place as Illinois. Illinois is a mess. And the school system in Illinois is a disaster. Parents are taking their kids out of the school system and homeschooling them because they see exactly what is going on in the school districts. And they cannot trust that our school districts will not have predators employed, that will not bring predators in to speak to their children.
Gay people aren't predators.
He's not a predator.
Okay, I'm going to continue. They're not sure that the school district isn't going to try and indoctrinate their children. This is exactly what is going on in the school district, and that's what's happening in Illinois, and that's what you guys are trying to do in Iowa City. And thank God for Governor Kim Reynolds that she has some oversight over this school district, and she knows.
Speaker, speak, please.
And she knows that there are things that need to be changed in the school district, and that not every school board in this state is going to do their due diligence and protect children from people who seek to do harm to them. That's exactly what happens. So I implore all of you to do better and to look in yourselves to make sure that the school is a safe place for all students, conservative students, liberal students, gay students, whatever. I am a gay student myself, thank you very much. So please, the school is not a place for indoctrination, it's a place for learning, and learning for all people. And what I want is I hope the same thing that all of you want, and that is for parents to feel safe and comfortable sending their children to school 5 days a week for 9 months out of the year. That is a lot of time and trust that they put into you, and that my mother put into me when she sent me to public school for 18 years. And not every parent has the time to look into what their kids are being taught and to look into how their kids are being treated. Things go unreported, things go unnoticed, things go unchecked. People are not brought to justice for the things they have done to children. So be careful. Thank you.
All right, next up, Steve Roach.
Hello, I'm Steve Roach. I'm a parent of a student at City High School, and I wanted to talk about two issues tonight, and they are interrelated. The first one is I'm really concerned about I don't have any direct information about it, but I did see the newspaper report about the police action against students at the Coralville Middle School. And these are 14-year-old kids that I saw a picture of a child held to the ground by police. And according to the report, at least in the newspaper, the kid was not involved with anything at the time he was thrown on the ground. He was walking away. And another child was arrested by the police and moved into the criminal justice system, which is a terrible danger to young black children. And in talking about protecting children, we really need to protect them from the legal justice system. And I just hope that you all are making sure that those kids are being taken care of and are being protected, because I'm terrified at what will happen to them. And related to that, I want to come back to what the previous speaker was talking about, the event at the Tate School, where it was an event where we talked about gay people defending themselves against violent cops. And it's talked about in terms of condoning violence. The school doesn't support condoning violence. How much time do you spend teaching about the Revolutionary War in this, or any of the wars where our nation state uses violence to do things? Do you not condone that? Have you said there shouldn't have been any violence in the Revolutionary War? But when it's marginalized people defending themselves against a violent state, then you're like, oh, we have to give a call out to the cops, our friends. The same week after the cops had thrown 14-year-old kids to the ground. We're talking a lot here about protecting children, and I want my children to be protected, and that means learning about who they are, learning about their gender, and having them feel safe. And I think that email did not make my children feel safe in the school district. It said the school district is really afraid about people talking about harms that were done to LGBTQ people. So I'll just leave it at that. I think protecting children is what we want, but it doesn't protect children by defining gay people as predators. I think that's a problem, and I think it's harmful. And it's part of a whole, I hope that you guys, as as a school district, one, make sure those kids that were arrested are taken care of, they're protected from the system. And then two, don't do things like that. You didn't need to call out the cops in that email to all the parents in the district. Thank you.
All right, next up, is it Eloisa Roach?
Hello, so my name is Eloisa Roach. Some of you know me as Raina. I know quite a few people on the council, on the board, I'm sorry. I'm a sophomore at City High School, and I'm gay. So I didn't get that email saying that the school district doesn't condone violence, because we don't get that type of correspondence. But when I saw that email, I felt like the school district was backtracking. They felt like community members, right, decided that they didn't want to learn about queer history. And that's a very dangerous thing to do. We already don't learn enough about queer people, and when UAY and Pride Con events and things that are meant to educate young queer kids about who they are and their history are taken back, I think that's really harmful. And then my dad mentioned it too. He was the one who spoke before me. When the school district said that they love cops, they appreciate cops. I don't think you guys said you love cops, but that you appreciate cops. A week after, kids got thrown to the ground by cops for having fights that happen all the time. I think that's inappropriate. I think that's wrong, especially in the context of queer people defending themselves. I think it's ahistorical to act as though queer people haven't had to defend themselves. Marginalized people haven't had to defend themselves against cops who have committed violence. The queer people at Stonewall were not the instigators of violence. If the school district backtracks and says they support police after talking about it in an incident in which police initiated violence against queer people, assaulted them, arrested them just for expressing their sexualities in the past, you are setting precedent to do that in the future. Also, the police were called and they assaulted a student at Northwest Junior High. I went to Southeast. I know white kids who have wielded knives at teachers, and nothing like that has happened. When someone had a weapon and was wielding it at a teacher, they were not assaulted by police. But when a black kid was walking away from a scene, he was held down by the police. And I think that is something that the district needs to think about when they are calling in the police in these situations, when they are taking punitive measures against students who are behaving in, sure, dangerous ways, but that is not the same thing as a full-grown man holding down a 14-year-old boy as he is walking away. So I just want the school district to take into consideration what I've said today and think about what action they are going to take. So thank you.
Next up, Noah.
Hello. Really a lot going on. First off, get rid of that tennis coach right now. Why the hell are they still a coach? What the actual fuck are y'all doing? Holy shit, that is really bad. Like, you all should be damn ashamed of yourselves that you are allowing that to still be a coach. Secondly, talk about the cops that y'all called on black students, which, once again, ICCSD is being racist, which we all know you are a deeply racist, ableist school district, just based on, like, all the statistics, the fact that you seclude people at a much higher rate, you don't give people lunches when they need it, which falls unfortunately on those folks. So yeah, just like actually like protect your students. And then you put out your bizarre emails about saying the school district doesn't condone violence, so you just think that marginalized people should just take it, just take state violence over and over again, even though just saying historical facts is not condoning violence in of itself. It's not Even if it was, that's okay because people have a right to defend themselves, and that's what someone wants, people defending themselves. And people absolutely should be defending themselves. The school district should not be teaching people to just passively take their oppression, just passively accept state violence and just be killed by it. People should fight back. And you should ignore the white supremacists like Joe over there who rile up the other right-wingers that live in this district that are the minority. You should just ignore them because why even give air to the racists? So I want to know. There's no point in doing that. Also, we talk about you really need to take item 13, the seclusion room, off the consent agenda. That is absolutely not appropriate to have on the consent agenda at all. That is, you should not be having seclusion rooms to begin with. You claim that you weren't going to have those anymore. You're going to get rid of those, and yet you put on the consent agenda to build new seclusion rooms. So how's the district getting rid of seclusion rooms when you are trying to hide those and put them on the consent agenda and building more of them? That is not doing away with the ableism. That is just keeping it. I mean, y'all should really look into your hearts and realize that y'all are acting completely inappropriately. You are not sure as hell acting like adults. You can't even protect your students. Just how? That's all I want to know. I know you can't. You can't answer, but you're not going to answer. But how does that mix up with what you claim you believe? You say you believe in this stuff, but yet you don't actually do the action for that. Is what I'm saying not interest you, Lisa? Lisa, why are you on your phone? That's what I want to know. Is that how little regard you have for the? I know that's how little regard you have for us. I mean, you're just gonna sit there on your phone, okay? Because you don't give a fuck about the students. You're not gonna protect them. Oh, I said a bad word. I'm so sorry. Did that offend you, JP? Do better. I wouldn't say it. This is a result of your inaction and your refusal to act well.
All right, thank you. Next up, is it Jamie Bradshaw or is it Jamie? Jamie. Sorry. All right, Jamie Bradshaw.
Hi, my name's Jamie Bradshaw. First off, this is my first time ever speaking to anybody, and I just got to say, wow. Wow. I've never been to your school board meetings before. You guys have a lot of angry people here, so wow. I'm up here because I want to speak to you guys about something that's very, very important. I want to speak to you guys about putting the focus back on our education, because that's what school is for. First of all, thank you for all you educators. I know it's hard. I know it's hard every single day. You guys have to get up and go to work and deal with cut budgets and dealing with students and dealing with politics that it happens in the school environment. So I got to tell you guys thank you. That being said, this is insane. We all dealt with the pandemic. The pandemic caused the school system as a whole to evolve. We had people going to school at home, we had people doing remote learning, we had them doing hybrid learning, and as a whole, everybody tried to deal with it. We laughed, we cried. Children were struggling to do school, they were struggling to maintain grades, maintain friendships, things of that nature. And something else happened that people didn't realize. The school became a political playground, which is ridiculous. The school should never be that way. It became a place where our schools are now at a cusp. They're at a point where something has to change, something has to happen. Our students are being made to endure politics in school. School's not a political playground. It is not an area where students should come in and hear about a teacher's personal life. They should not come in and hear about a teacher's sexual orientation. They should not come in and hear about a teacher's political views. such as your computer right there, sir. Having those stickers on your computer, you're a member of the school board. You should have your computer playing like everyone else. I should not be able to come up here and know your political views. That is not what a school is designated for. A school is designated to teach our kids how to be successful members of society, how to teach them to add, subtract, multiply, divide, to teach them to understand the Constitution, to teach them what different chemicals are to combine in science. They are not here for a political session. They are not here to teach kids about gender or anything else of that nature.
Let the speaker speak, please.
That being said, schools should not also be an area where we have people coming in and inciting violence against those that are in positions to protect us, such as the police. And I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I'm calling on the school board today, right now, to put the focus back on school education. You guys say that you are student-focused, child-centered, future-focused. Then if that's your motto, do that. Focus on the education, not all the political crap, not on teaching kids how to have violence, not on bringing the police to schools, none of that. It's on educating our children. Let's give them the skills they need in order to be successful members of society, productive members of society, and give them the chance to chase the American dream, because that's what school's about, not politics.
Next up, Dan Cobble.
All right, I would just like to come up here and first off say that no self-respecting queer person such as myself would say, hey, I condemn the violence at Stonewall done by queer people, and also no self-respecting queer person would come up and say, I support Kim Reynolds. So I'm here this evening to talk about a bigoted email that Superintendent Degner sent out to the district on April 4th. It read, in part, the Stonewall riots highlighted violence. This violence is a painful part of LGBTQ history and the Stonewall riots. And while we've supported the learning and understanding of historical events as they occurred, we do not promote or condone violence in any capacity. We appreciate and value the partnership of local agencies and community nonprofits, including law enforcement, which are vital in assisting us to provide safe and caring cultures in our schools. We can't do this without each other, and we need to work together to support the well-being, safety, and success of young people in our community. Matt, I don't know you, but from this email, it's super clear that you have no understanding about queer history and you have no understanding about what Stonewall was. Yeah, people threw bricks at cops at Stonewall. You want to know why? Because the cops were raiding gay bars, the only places where gay people could gather. They were bashing their heads in, hauling them off to jail. So yeah, people threw bricks at those cops. I mean, that's total. I mean, how is that different from the Revolution? Before Stonewall, queer folks across the country, like I said, were having their heads bashed in by bigoted police who hated the fact that they were gay, queer, trans, and or non-white. So in 1969, the residents of Greenwich Village decided they had enough. A week or two ago, someone came in at a Pride Con and was educating about the history of Stonewall, telling people how these police, who these bigots support, yeah, you can laugh, but who these bigots support, these police who are calling them faggots, who are beating their heads in, who are doing all of this terrible stuff to our queer community. I find it sad that you're then condemning the violence that these queer folks took to give themselves some self-respect and to fight back. So, I mean, in your email, Matt, when you're condemning this violence, not only are you throwing your queer kids under the bus and the district, but you're also throwing the presenter of that presentation, who's an asset to this community and has done more to help it than any of the conservative assholes who've come here tonight. And I mean, the person who spoke before me, who's running for supervisor, talked about how there's a lot of angry people. We need to keep politics out of schools. Schools are there to make people as good as they can be. It means supporting trans people. It means teaching kids not to be bigots so they don't turn out like Joseph Dobrian. I mean, like, Joseph Dobrian has been coming here for a few months, as you all know, and he has this book. And this book, he talks about a lot of things, supports a lot of racism, talks about how it's awful that kids are no longer getting naked in locker rooms. It's a really bad read, but it's also, I had COVID and I read it, and it made me feel a little better because I was like, wow, this guy's an asshole. But like I said, y'all need to support your queer students because, I mean, right now, not many queer students in the district feel good. So thank you.
Thanks for the plug.
All right, next up, Jacob, is it Onken?
Hey everybody, my name is Jacob Onken. Lived in Iowa City since 2017. I don't have any kids in school yet, but I do have 2 little boys. So I'm kind of here as more of a concerned citizen. I just wanted to voice my opinion. I've never been to a school board meeting before, so this has been very entertaining, very interesting. I don't envy any of you. I recognize that you can't make everybody happy, and I don't think anybody that rationally thinks would ever expect you to make everybody happy. There's been lots of absolute statements made tonight about the things that are going on in our community, and I don't have all the details on all of these things, so I'm not going to try to comment on all of them. But I will say that I was really upset by what I saw at Tate High School. Basically, in my opinion, grooming children, thinking that for some reason that it's acceptable to put that on a slideshow, that we owe pride to transgender black women or transgender people who, anybody, it shouldn't matter what the sex is, decide to throw rocks through windows or at cops or whoever. I think that's completely unacceptable. Looks like this was some kind of a special training or some kind of a special event which was thrown. But I would just encourage everyone to consider that not everybody agrees with those types of statements, and everybody who lives in the community, we're paying our tax dollars and we're trying to support the schools, and we want what's best for the kids. And to sit here and pretend like our cops are all terrible people is just completely inaccurate. To sit here and pretend like the only children we have to look out for or worry about is the transgender or the LGBTQ community is also false. We have a lot of people that we need to consider. There's lots of important issues to balance, and me personally as a taxpayer in the community, I don't want my tax money going towards those types of trainings or events, because so much of what is presented there from what I've seen is very subjective in its nature. So I appreciate your time and everything you do for the community, and I just hope that moving forward that you'll be more considerate of our taxpayers and also the parents in the community who wouldn't necessarily agree with some of those agendas that were brought up in this specific instance. Thanks.
Okay, next up, Nora Berner.
Hi, I'm Nora Berner. Thanks for making time for me tonight. I just wanted to voice my support for the diversity and equity employees and the amazing work that they are doing to support our students of color and to support our LGBTQIA students. It is a really hard time for everyone, but it's a really hard time for underserved populations. And I just want to also throw my support behind the students learning about Stonewall. It's really important. It's important to know history and to tell the truth about history so that we can change our behavior moving forward. I also would like to offer my sincere support of the young women who spoke up so bravely tonight. I myself was a child who was a victim, and I know how hard it is to speak up. So I just ask you to please believe them and honor how much work it took for them to show up tonight. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, everyone. That's our last community comment, so we will move into our agenda, but I appreciate everybody's comments tonight. First up, just our agenda approval, so I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All right, Kim.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you, Kim. So that brings us down to our consent agenda. I always like to ask if there are any questions from folks after they were reviewing the bills that they want to bring up.
No questions for me.
Are there items that directors would like to pull?
Yes. Can we pull item number 13, the City High Classroom Remodel Design Task Order?
All right, item 13, anything else?
I'd also like to pull item number 8, the high reliability schools.
Item 8 and 13, anything else, directors? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve minus items 8 and 13.
I move to approve everything but items 8 and 13.
Second.
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thanks, Kim. Before we move into the pulled items, I know Chase wanted to make a couple introductions from something we just approved.
I did. Thanks, President Eystone. We've moved into one of my favorite parts of the year where we get to welcome some new faces to our team for next year, and we actually get to do this at the next couple of meetings. And tonight, with your approval a few seconds ago, we are welcoming some changes on our team, folks that are here but are assuming new roles. And so very quickly, in your approval tonight, we approved our new Executive Director for Elementary Education, Eliza Proctor. Eliza is back there in the audience. She's currently our principal at Lemmy. Laura Gray, who will become the Executive Director for Diversity and Cultural Responsiveness. Laura right here. Nick Proud, who's going to move to our Chief Human Resource Officer on the end of the row. And then Carmen Guinagali, who will become our new Director for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. And so welcome to these folks, or welcome to their new roles, and thank you for your support. While all these people are great, I do want to mention just one other thing about Carmen. As you know, Carmen currently serves as our ESC Fellow. And so something that we're really proud to see that progression of Carmen from her role as a curriculum coordinator to our fellow and now onto our leadership team here in the ESC. Sorry to embarrass you, Carmen, but I think it's great, and I'm happy that we're getting to work with her full time. So congrats and welcome to all of our new members tonight. So thank you. And as I said, we hopefully get to bring you some additional recommendations here at the next 2 meetings. So thank you for that.
All right. Thank you, Chase. Welcome, everyone. Well, welcome back, I guess. Let's go into our pulled items. Item number 8, the high reliability schools. Jane?
I just thought this was a good opportunity to hear more from Matt and the team to highlight this so the community and the board as well can know a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Director Finch. We actually have been working on this a little bit this week and kind of practicing how we talk to people about it. And so we're working through a little statement and elevator speech, if you will, about how we describe that to folks. I mean, the basic premise is school improvement framework. But I'm going to read you a little bit of a statement that we've been working through as a team here and that I think kind of highlights the robust aspect of this work. And so high reliability schools is a framework that supports our district in fulfilling our vision of equitable outcomes for all students. It gives us common language to name what we're doing, assess our current reality, align our initiatives, and determine where to go next. It's a vehicle that allows us to balance shared responsibility and autonomy to make decisions that meet the needs of all of our students. So basically, a school improvement framework gives us common language about the indicators that show if we're being successful, if we're not being successful. It starts to talk about the autonomy of buildings to make those changes that are effective that they need to for their school sites, and respect that each of our campuses are a little bit different, while also knowing that the district plays a critical role in being able to support their ability to be successful there, with the real driver making sure that we start to reach some better equitable outcomes for our kids. And so putting those processes in place, having some good indicators to show us what our data is telling us, and then how do we move forward together in a common fashion. So we're excited about this work. We really see it as a big opportunity for us to start next year when we talk about school improvement and trying to improve across the district. And so this will be our first learning opportunity with a wide section of the school district to do. It'll influence our work throughout the summer and into the start of next school year and moving forward. So I'll be excited to talk to you guys some more about it. Happy to answer any questions, and Amy's been closely involved in leading this work too, and I'm sure she'd be happy to contribute anything you might have.
So when is this presentation going to be, in April? Is that right?
Yeah, so I'll probably talk to you a little bit about it through my evaluation process, Charlie, actually, as far as school improvement framework, because I do think that this will be critical as far as goals that we set and things we try to achieve as a district. And so when we think about even bringing forward a strategic plan and how we talk about our strategic plan, it has to be rooted in some of those improvement frameworks. There's also, in conjunction to it, instructional framework for us to talk about effective instruction, what that looks like in classrooms across. And so you'll hear the words common language a lot, and I think that's where we struggle oftentimes, is knowing how all of these things intersect and fit together, and how do we create synergy in a common way to move that work forward. And sometimes that's just the absence of having a tool that we all use or that we all talk about.
Thanks.
Anything further, directors? All right, to entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item 8, high reliability schools professional development.
Second.
All right, Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thanks, Kim. Item 13.
Yeah, thank you, President Eystone. I wanted an opportunity for us to discuss this in a transparent manner. The building of a seclusion room at City High. All of us in this room know the history of seclusion and restraints and the failures that we've made in the past as the district. But several years ago, we made the commitment to eliminate those rooms and have worked diligently to do that under the direction of our special ed director, Lisa Glenn, as well as the rest of the administrative team. So I would like to have as in-depth of conversation as possible. I know that may not be totally in-depth because it may contain identifiable information regarding a student or students surrounding the need of this, but for a call of transparency, we really have to have this conversation before moving forward. So not only the board, but the community can understand what's at hand here with this proposal. So I don't know if Superintendent, you want to take it, or if you wanted to take it to our Director of Special Ed.
I'll start us off a little bit, and then Lisa will probably have some things to add in, or may choose to be able to answer some of your questions more effectively. But yeah, thank you for pulling it. I think something we could acknowledge is we probably shouldn't have had that on the consent agenda, and that we should have just had it in the regular agenda, so we could have had this conversation either way. We too acknowledge the kind of the stigma around the seclusion room conversation and seclusion restraint in the district. The district has committed and has removed those temporary seclusion spots that we would have seen in previous years. And the only time we would consider the use of a seclusion room to this level, or even the construction of a seclusion room, would be if it's part of a student's current IEP plan. And those IEP plans, of course, our parents are in those meetings. They're critical team members in that process. And so you really have the group of experts there saying this is a component of what a student or students may need to be successful in our school environment. And so that's the only reason we would consider it, and the only reason we would need to create something of this mind. We've worked really hard in the district to create plans that don't include those seclusion spaces. But that's not universal. That's not the case for every plan that's in the district, for every student in the district. And so there are still situations where that's required and necessary. The board does regular report out from us to see the data around seclusion and restraint in the district, and we would just remind folks of the difference between seclusion rooms and seclusion and restraint as well, that seclusion rooms are the actual space, and that's what we're talking about in a facility change here, where seclusion could happen anywhere in our school buildings, right, with that egress blocked. And so, but you guys have held us accountable to make sure we report out that data and that we look at it on a regular basis and that we talk through that. So I think that's how I would open up the conversation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Lisa, if you sure have something you can jump in and add it to. But again, the only time we would be looking to use those spaces is part of a current student's IEP plan that the parents, we'd want to remind people, are critical partners in that work.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, Lisa, if you might be better able to answer this. Can you just talk a little bit about the change in the law regarding the spaces and then just the practice as far as the spaces and previously no laws, just no guidance at all from the state, yay or nay on this. And so we did have those very unfortunate, temporary spaces that has the notoriety, the infamous spaces. So a little bit about that, and then also a little bit about the reporting out and the data collection, and especially when kind of the timelines on that, when people need to be notified, and then what kind of data goes to the state regarding this. And hopefully that's not too much.
Yes. Yes, I can comment on all of that. So the requirements around the actual seclusion spaces, that the requirements were changed and are very, very specific now. So the portable spots that previously were in existence, we couldn't even have anymore, even if we intended to have them. We wouldn't be able to. But we don't intend to have them, and we had already removed them quite a while back. So that promise that we made, we did follow through on. We did remove all of those portable spaces. That is not what we're talking about right now. What we are talking about is a permanent part of the structure. Actually, this will look like and be used as office space for when we're not needing it for seclusion. So it'll have a window in it, and it'll be inside of a classroom, as are many other office spaces in our buildings, and can be and will be used as office space at other times when we're not needing it for a seclusion area. Also, we've promised that yearly, at least yearly, we would report out those restraint and seclusion numbers, which we did last spring, and then we'll come back probably right after school is out this year and report those numbers again. We've had a very significant reduction in our Chapter 103 reports, but we haven't gotten them to zero yet. We educate all students here in our public school system, and that means that we have some students with very extreme need. But we don't tell any students, well, your needs are too extreme for us. Your disability is too significant. We can't, go home. We can't serve you here. We don't tell anyone that. We make plans to be able to, manage student plans here. And then when those plans don't work, then we bring our teams back to the drawing board and we replan and we gather new information. And we continue to do that. And that's how we have reduced our numbers to the point that we have been able to. And supplying mental health services, significant increase in the amount and number of mental health services that we've got available. We've added social work. In fact, right now we're interviewing for more social workers, specifically special education social workers. We've changed to to safety care rather than CPI, which focuses much more on the de-escalation part. So it's that entire social, emotional, behavioral health realm in our entire district we're continuing to work on, and especially those Tier 3 services. So we want to make sure that we say over and over and over again, this is only one tiny, tiny little part. This is not what we're doing to address social, emotional, behavioral health. Everything else is what we're doing to address it. This is, this is for safety, for when those plans, haven't been effective on that day for that student, and then we go back to the drawing board and plan again.
So if this isn't approved, what happens for those kids that their plan requires such a room?
In that case, we would have to say, we can't serve you here.
Okay.
We can't serve you.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to make that clear.
We would. We would have
just
to.
because, we received emails and we heard tonight about the failures of the district. And the question has to be, when do we take into consideration the needs of the
Right.
students, that their adults in their lives and their safety requires a room like this? And I only bring that up because I have a sibling that was denied service growing up because the school district refused to give a room like this. To this day, he did not finish high school. So I can't allow us to cast away students who parents are asking us for this support. But I also can't allow us to use it as a punitive measure
Right.
for students who are bad, disruptive, or what have you, because we know typically in the past that's been our Black and brown students. So I do look forward to that report later in the spring to make sure that we're using this room or whatever other rooms we have in the district appropriately and correctly. Thank you.
And I want to ask that question in a slightly different version. I mean, Lisa, are we allowed to pick and choose what part of a student's IEP we follow?
We're not. In the cases where we have built in specifically and especially seclusion in a seclusion area, that is absolutely a last resort. I mean, that is a lot of other things, even within a student's plan, a lot of other things would be tried first before, that would be like a safety plan part of a student's IEP and a response strategies. There are a lot of other preventative things that would happen, and even a lot of other response strategies that would happen before we would, even resort to that, even if it is in a student's plan. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But if the plan requires a seclusion room, we, by law, have to make sure that that's available, correct?
Yes, we do have to. Mm-hmm. We do have to, because we don't have an option not to provide a free, appropriate public education for every student. We really don't have that option. No.
Lisa, can you just real roughly remind us of the reduction in incidents? What the numbers were on that?
At the time that I reported, so when the board asked for a report last year, the school year wasn't quite over, but at the time when I reported it, it was a 90% reduction.
So I would just kind of sum up a couple things, right? And I wanted to go back to what Director Malone said, right? I mean, trying to make sure that people understand it's not punitive, it's not for disciplinary purposes. These are part of students' plans that are agreed on by those IEP teams. In that case, to Lisa's question around, our inability to provide that education that students deserve if we don't have this in place as those teams have agreed to it. And then knowing that we have done the work, right? We have removed the temporary seclusion rooms that were talked about and infamous as you guys described here earlier. We've done the reduction in the seclusion and restraint, and so this is not setting a step to set that work back, right? This is about, again, trying to make sure those few students that do have this written into their plans, we're able to provide that education to them as like Lisa referenced a couple times, they're a last resort. It's not where we start, it's not the beginning. That's the last resort for a safety concern on that.
And Director Millen, I really appreciate you sharing your story. I'm sorry that happened for your brother. And your experience, are there schools in Iowa that will deny services to kids at this level of need?
There are districts in Iowa who tuition students out to other districts in Iowa who just say, we can't serve you here.
And that is something we're not going to
ask
do.
This district over here to serve you instead.
Okay.
We are a district who serves other district students.
Right.
And those numbers are in our numbers too.
Okay.
Any student we serve here, whether or not they're our resident actually, those numbers are reported. Any restraints or seclusions that would happen from other district students are actually in those numbers. So we take other district students, of students who are here for whatever reason, and we serve other district students, and we report numbers that are generated from those students also. We're the district that takes other district students.
Thank you.
We don't send our students anywhere. Not normally voluntarily.
Thank you, Lisa and Matt, for your conversation. It's really, I think, illuminates or helps people to understand why this item is on the agenda tonight. I think Matt asked. I think some of the objections I was reading in the emails we received are that people would like us not to have any seclusion rooms, spaces at all, and we've described why that's not in the best interest of some students, okay? But in terms of this particular space at this particular high school, after this space is no longer needed for an IEP plan, will we remove it or repurpose it for something else?
Yes, and that's what Lisa was kind of alluding to, with that it's really created like what you would look at and you would see as an office, right? It will have a window. It isn't yet embedded in a classroom, but it looks more like an office when you would step in there. I think it's 8 by 8. Is that right, Jeff? Is that what we said?
It's usually we build them about 8 by 8. The state says 56 square foot is the minimum size, and we're right. It's drywalled. It's whatever the floor is in the room, we carry it right into that room. So if it's carpet, tile. So.
Yeah, so it'd be repurposed for a workspace, Charlie. Yep.
Okay, thanks. And I would also note in our discussion tonight that the agenda item is for providing $24,000 in funds to provide 2 classrooms and the seclusion space. Is that correct?
The seclusion space is in one of the classrooms, yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Terry. That's what I was going to bring up too, right? We do have a fiduciary responsibility, and a lot of the emails talk about a $24,000 seclusion room, and it's renovating spaces into 2 classrooms for $24,000, which is
it's for the design.
For the design, yeah,
This is
but
the design.
it's not right. It's
Not just
it's
designing
just
the seclusion room.
an isolated thing, right? Renovating 2 spaces. So, any further discussion from directors?
I would just say that I think that a lot of the concern comes from, people worrying about the most vulnerable people in our community, and so we all understand that, but I'm grateful that we have the level of expertise we have on staff, and so I'm glad we talked about this. I'm glad it was pulled from the consent agenda, and I have confidence in what you're doing.
With that, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item 13.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. Votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right. We are moving into a public hearing, and I'm going to look to my right and ask Director Williams if she would
Man, she
read
did
the
that on
public hearing. Yeah, I do
purpose,
kind of think
didn't
that
she?
was
She's so sneaky.
purposeful.
All right. Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the district's proposed fiscal year 2023 certified budget and setting the tax rate. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on March 22nd, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on March 24th, 2022. Are there any questions from the board related to the certified budget and setting the tax rate? Are there any questions from the public related to the certified budget and setting the tax rate?
All right, we can close this public hearing.
There was one.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's the 2023.
Okay, so is that like include for upgrading this room for Zoom then, for hybrid meetings? I'm just curious, is I...
I don't know. Les, can you kind of describe the difference between the certified budget versus like a line item budget?
This is a certified budget required. It's a statutory compliance piece that sets the tax rate that includes our PEPAL levy. We've already approved the PEPAL life cycle budget for next year and improves the debt service as well as the funding of all of the general fund.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's just what I wanted to know.
And now we can close the public hearing. All right, thank you, Director Williams. We can move into policy review. We have the 600 series, and this is one of the downfalls of having a 5-week in March. It's been a couple weeks since I remember we went through these at P&G, so I'm trying to remember what all the changes were, but they should all be highlighted in there. We did have some discussions over some future changes. I don't know if folks had a chance to kind of run through there. The 600s is pretty long. Matt or Jane, I don't know, is there anything folks wanted to highlight from the P&G discussion to bring to everybody's attention?
I don't think we had anything this evening, President Eystone. Like you had mentioned, you can see the different adjustments or changes that are recommended there with the red and yellow highlights or the strike-throughs. So nothing that was jumping out to me. Like you said, it's been a while since we reviewed those, and you'll have yet another opportunity to in the second meeting in April to do so.
I would also just point out that the 600 series has the guidelines for how you can object to instructional materials and the process for how they are reviewed, the things that we've talked about a lot because of proposed legislation. So it's all in there.
How long have we had that? As long as I can remember.
Yeah, we've had it a long time. I think when we did one legislative update, we kind of talked about the state actually asked us for this as they were considering some changes, and we were able to provide that as a kind of a model that other districts could adopt. So we've had it for a long time. Big kudos to our library coordinator and librarians that work through that process regularly.
Yeah, I think, that particular piece puts it in perspective that, people will go out and they'll make statements and they may have reasons or agendas. But here's a robust process, right? That's really thorough and really has a lot of input with a lot of thought to truly explain, here's the educational value of this particular material. So, I guess it would be a lot of work, but I would, put it out to folks like take advantage of this. If you disagree with some of the stuff we're doing, community comments one method, but here's a really robust process to go through to really get in depth on some curriculum. And what I would hope is then people come away with an understanding. If it was inappropriate, right, we're coming away with that understanding that this is something that should be removed. And if it's not, I would hope people who challenge that could come away with some understanding of why materials are being used. I think a lot of the stuff I see in the media, people are complaining about things they've never even read. They've heard about it, they think it's about something, and then they come out and insist we're indoctrinating kids or something. So I would recommend anybody interested in that really take a look at this at this section, which is, oh boy,
Oh, I have
You
it.
have it?
You brought it up.
But it's 605, sorry, 605.3.
3.
3, and I think 2 is in, no, 3.
Yeah, right, 605.3.
You got it.
There's one other section that I thought people are going to want us to remember is in there, and that's the RAM model is in the series, the 600 series, and it'll, it always comes up. And just to remember that the language has always been aspirational goals. So this is just one of those. It's 606.1. It's good for people to remember that that's where that is and that those are aspirational.
So, as Matt mentioned, we're going to bring it back, the second time for a second reading and then adoption. So if there is anything that you find when you're doing some late night reading, let P&G know, and we'll make sure we discuss it. We do have our next meeting. It's got a pretty healthy agenda on it, I noticed. We'll look at that at agenda settings. So
You did a nice job with this. You made good changes, and it was a thick one.
yeah, I do feel that as we sit in P&G, we don't have a huge amount of changes each time, but I think that was the intent of reviewing them on an annual basis instead of the prior multi-year deal where lots of stuff happened in the meantime. So I think that's the ideal, is that there are minimal changes each time. As law changes, we have to make sure they're updated there, and then just kind of some best practice with language and things like that. So they, for the most part, are minor changes, I think. So, all right, unless there's anything further, we'll move on. All right, let's head down to our discussion items. I think we'll get a pretty brief health and safety update, I would think.
Yeah, as far as COVID related on the health and safety update, it is very brief. You can still check our COVID dashboard for kind of current case counts and what we're seeing with staff and students. And so really no significant news to report on that end, which I think is good news at this point, instead of just kind of maintaining how we were maintaining some other health and safety protocols as we went along. We've had some great opportunities to have volunteers back in the buildings, which has been exciting. We were at the Shimmick ribbon cutting this afternoon, several of us, and that was neat to be able to get people in there from outside in the community and see some of the facility projects again. So big credit to Dwayne, Jeff, and the facilities team there. That was a lot of fun this afternoon, and for Kristen for organizing it for us. But maybe the one thing that I'll say under the health and safety update that's not real traditional for a health and safety item is just kind of recognizing the fact that we've had a lot of situations here in the district recently, right around that affect health and safety of our student population, of our staff in a different way. And, they don't meet our standards. That's not the standard we'd want to set. That's not what we'd like to see happening in the district. And so anytime those situations happen, they're traumatic for all involved in the situation in different ways. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that and know that as we've went through the pandemic and we've tried to bring people back to school, adults, kids, not everything has went super smooth all the time, right? And so there's going to be disruptions that we have happen, and we try to always improve on our response to those things, but the most important thing we try to do is prevent them from ever occurring in the first place. And so that's where we have to continue to spend time and energy. Of course, learn from situations as they occur to know what we can do better next time, but we are committed to sustaining and maintaining that safe and healthy culture in our buildings as we move forward. And that's why I think we're also really excited about the high reliability schools work, that the foundational level of that whole school improvement framework is positive and supportive cultures in our school buildings and respecting where they're at and what they each need to do to try to improve that work. So like I said, not usual, because we usually talk about COVID through health and safety, but I thought we'd be remiss, on some level if we didn't mention some of those aspects happening right now in our schools.
I'll throw it out there to directors, any questions on that or comments? Or all right, we can move on to our next discussion item, our equity update. I don't know if
well, I think Amy might applaud that she doesn't have the report out for the equity update tonight. She's been leading a lot of that work for us on the teach and learning side as we've talked about equity work, but actually Chase gets a fun chance to introduce Janet to you here this evening and hear some work or some information about her work in the Ombuds role.
Good evening again. We are very excited to have some time to chat with you tonight about the Ombuds. If you remember, we brought this concept to you almost 18 months ago, and we welcomed Janet to our team last summer. And I think we would all say that she has far exceeded our expectations already in the first year of work that she's done. And so we're pleased to give you this update. But it is a work in progress. It's a new program, and We're still building it a little bit as we fly it, which Janet will share, but how we know it's successful is just the overwhelming response that we've gotten from individuals about the support she provides and just even having this option. And so one of the things that we're really trying to do is better define Janet's niche as the Ombuds and how does it interplay with some of our other departments here in the organization. I don't see it as a negative that people are reaching out to her. I really see it as a positive. Not a sign that people have concerns, but that people feel like that we have a place that they can go to have their voices heard, that they can get information about the processes that we have, and that we are opening to listening to them and to help them navigate some of the questions they have about whether it's on the teaching and learning side or on the operations side. But overall, we're just really excited about the Ombuds work and how we continue to move this forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Janet.
Thanks so much, Chase. I truly appreciate your kind words and those comments that you made. I certainly appreciate that. Yeah, should I stand right over? I'll run. Okay, thanks so much. Still learning. Thanks so much, Chase. I'm happy to stand over there and do it if that's easiest.
If you want to.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
I was kind of enjoying watching Chase dance.
Looking forward to watching you figure out how to watch the slides. So, clearly some PD and PowerPoint is needed for Chase.
Like, get the middleman out of there, get Kristen up there just to take care of it.
I'm gonna try to peek over here. All right, great. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and time myself as well. Keep this under 10 minutes is my goal. But thank you again, Chase, and I really thank you all for this opportunity to provide an update on the work that I've been doing in the district. So I will go ahead and, oops. Now I'm confused. Okay.
Chase is like, take me now?
Oh, it's here we go.
No, I will not.
Here we go. All right, so I will first provide information on my role, then I will share what has been my focus for 8 months into this role. Lastly, I would like to provide some data on the Ombuds work that I've been doing. So some reminders about my role. The purpose of adding an Ombuds to any organization is to promote a more just, civil, equitable, and inclusive organization and improve organizational culture. My primary duties are to assist individuals with exploring options for informally resolving any conflict or concern that is district-related. And second, to monitor concerns, identify trends, and raise awareness of emerging issues while being mindful of confidentiality as well. My overall process is to first engage, to explain the Ombuds role when someone reaches out to me, make sure they understand that, listen to understand the full concern, and then start building trust with all parties involved in that concern. Then to move to clarifying core issues and goals of any concern or conflict, and then exploring options with individuals for resolution. So my focus 8 months into the role has primarily been on building relationships and trust, and also building the foundation of this role. But as a brand new individual to the district and in a brand new position, this was the most important thing to me. If I did not have that relationship building or start building that trust, I would be at a very severe loss and would be unable to fulfill my role here as Ombuds in the district. So in regards to building relationships, I started immediately holding individual in-person introduction meetings in which I was able to explain my role, meet individually with people, and answer any questions that they have. By January 2022, I met with all school board members, district office leadership, building administrators, and visited each school in the district in person to tour the schools and introduce myself face to face. I felt that was so important, and to be honest, it was a lot of fun. It was just such a bright spot in my onboarding to visit those schools and really see that pride that those individuals have for each school and have them share with me what makes each school unique. So that was really, really a bright spot so far. In regards to trust building, what that means to me is a high focus on establishing the integrity and credibility of my office. So that meant for me being very well informed and well researched in my approach to the Ombuds role. So part of this was researching best practices for K through 12 Ombuds specifically, and continuous education for myself on the role. So I immediately joined the International Ombuds Association, met with several K through 12 Ombuds with a focus in the Midwest, joined a K through 12 Ombuds working group. We meet monthly to share best practices. Acquired an experienced K through 12 Ombuds mentor as of January this year and meet bi-weekly with that mentor. I completed 2 foundational courses recommended for new Ombuds as of December 2021 through the International Ombuds Association, and I've been very grateful for that opportunity. Foundations of Organizational Ombuds and Nuts and Bolts of Nuts and Bolts of starting an Ombuds office. I also attended recently the Ombuds Association annual conference just this April, which was fantastic. Such great information for me as a brand new Ombuds. So building the foundation, what I mean by that, that was a big part of establishing that integrity and credibility of my office as well. So drafting an Ombuds office charter, this is something I really did not want to rush through. This document is really about getting everyone on the same page as to what my role is and isn't within the district, and certainly find this document to be very important and will be important going forward. So drafted that document, have gotten very constructive, good feedback from several individuals, and working on finalizing that. I hope to have that finalized in the very near future. Also drafted a standard operating procedures manual. So while the charter is what I will do within the district, what my role and responsibilities are, the standard operating procedures manual would be how I will carry out, details on how I will carry out those roles and responsibilities. Building the foundation has also included drafting marketing materials with the great help from Kristen and Emily Archer, helping create the website, create a brochure, and also lastly, creating a concerns database has been a big part of building the foundation of my role. That is something where I will be using to monitor data and then eventually using that data to put together annual reports and provide regular reporting on the work that I'm doing. So jumping to that data. Okay, so I do want to provide a disclaimer. This data is in draft form and subject to revision, as my data tracking and reporting is a work in progress. So I'm currently continuing to fine-tune my data tracking and reporting methods. Right now, I'm trying to figure out and navigate these questions, such as what data is most useful and valuable to the district, the most efficient way to track this data, the best way to communicate this data. How does my data fit with other data tracking methods and standards within the district? Are we speaking the same language? So with that, I want to provide some data for you all and hope to provide more data through an annual report in the very near future. So this is a 6-month snapshot. I started receiving concerns as of October 2021, and the data will show through March 2022. So this first slide is data context by month. So you'll see the total context that I've received and concerns that I've received since October is 62, and you can see the breakdown here by month. I'm hoping this will be interesting once I have a whole year's worth of data to look at any trends and ebbs and flows, and it's looking like for right now, the norm might be around the 16, 20-ish mark. And hopefully that will increase. And to Chase's point, I absolutely see that as a great thing that people are continuing to increase and reaching out to me. That's what I'm happy to see. In regards to the type of visitor, you'll see that it has been predominantly employees at 55%, followed by parent guardians, and then a lower percentage for student and other. So other might be an advocate for a family or parent guardian that has reached out to me that's trying to help that family And I did notice that student being a bit lower, that will be an effort for me in the next year to focus more education and outreach to that population specifically. I am seeing and reviewing other K through 12 ombuds positions, seeing their annual reports, that this seems to be in line with their data as well, that it seems to be a smaller percentage of students, predominantly employee and parent guardians. So form of contact, how are individuals reaching out to me? Predominantly via email, followed by phone, and very few walk-ins. That seems to be, again, in alignment with a trend of other K through 12 ombuds as well. In regards to data by level, you can see that most of the concerns or contacts have come from and are regarding the elementary, followed by high school, then the district office, then junior high, and the online learning program. So wanted to provide all of this preliminary data for you all, and again, it is just what I felt fairly confident in up until this point. I will be doing a lot more work in regards to moving forward, and we'll talk about that a bit more in my next steps. But in regards to outcomes, you might wonder what is often the result of someone coming to the office, and these are typically things that may occur. So providing information on a district policy or procedure, connecting them with resources, sharing conflict resolution, best practices, conducting an informal mediation or facilitated conversation, or it might just be an initial consult, and they might just feel like they just wanted that time and space to talk through something with someone else and take the time to decide how they'd like to move forward. And at any time, they can always reach out to me, but these are typically the outcomes. Moving forward, I hope to have more data on this in an annual report following a feedback survey. So I will be creating a feedback survey for people to take, sending it out near the end of the school year and saying, you've contacted the Ombuds office in the last school year, please provide your feedback, and this is of course very optional and confidential. And that will then also be integrated into an annual report and provided in that document. So I did want to mention for next steps that finalizing charter and the standard operating procedures manual absolutely is part of my next steps as well. Education and outreach, that annual report will help direct me on what education and outreach to focus on in the next school year. I'm thinking building staff, students, and parents will be my focus for the next coming school year, and creating additional marketing materials focused on those groups. So I did want to close out by saying I have felt nothing but completely supported in my role here at the Iowa City Community School District, and I am truly loving the work, and I'm thankful to be here. So thank you all, and feel free to let me know if you have any questions.
Oh, thank you, Janet. So I don't really have any questions, but more of comments. You know, I've heard from several people that have reached out to you, and one of the biggest compliments that I hear is, especially when people have a connection to the University of Iowa, is like, oh wow, it's just like going to the ombuds person at the University of Iowa. And I'm like, you're in a lot of ombuds people offices, huh? But in all seriousness, you know, they were very impressed with the formation of the office, since it hasn't been here for very long at the district. But a lot of the comments I hear is that it's a very well put together position, that you have explained all their options, and they felt very comfortable in being able to approach you, because they didn't feel as though you were pushing them in one direction. So I just want to thank you for putting in that effort and being so approachable for so many people in our community.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I also think that the more people use your services, the more people are going to use your services. And so I think that with any new position, it's just going to take that getting familiar and getting to know that you exist. So I think that even after you've done the visits, you've done a great job.
Thank you.
But just, you know, do it again as far as getting information out to the principals.
Yeah.
Everybody's been so busy. So the more you can remind people that you're there, I think it's a good thing to do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a little love fest here, I think, for you, Janet, because it's, people have been asking for this type of thing for so long, and we certainly as a board have been supportive and certainly have been impressed by you since we met back in the fall. And, one thing I really appreciate is the thoughtfulness and the effort you put in to build this the right way for sustainability, right? And I'm grateful too to our staff. Like oftentimes, your admin and your ombuds aren't like buddies. That can be kind of adversarial. So I really appreciate the way that we're taking this on as a district, and that you do feel welcome and that you do feel supported and appreciated, because I definitely want you to stay. I just think this is one piece that people who've used ombuds understand, but I think a lot of people don't understand how valuable this can be, just to have a place that you're heard and somebody who's knowledgeable about all of the systems to help guide you through what can be really convoluted, complicated systems. And when you're having a problem with that system, it's even harder. And for you to kind of shepherd people through that is greatly appreciated. I just think it's such an asset to the district.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, Janet, I do.
You can go sit down while we.
That's fine. I'm happy to stand, yeah.
I do thank you for a great interview when we got together last fall, and your work is just totally impressive and awesome. I do notice that you've had 60-something contacts so far. It's a pretty large number for the time you've been working here, and 40% of those are from parents and guardians, which indicates to me that reaching out is working. Okay. I would ask that I was impressed really by your slide that is entitled "My Role." You list your duties as number 1 and number 2. The second duty is monitoring concerns, identifying trends, and raising awareness of emerging issues. I'm really happy to see that, Matt, as part of this position. But my next question: you've had 62 contacts yet.
Yep.
What can you tell us about concerns, trends, and emerging issues?
Great. So that's a great question, and that you can see that that's the data I did not provide today in regards to categories of concerns. I've done a lot of research so far, and I spent, admittedly, an embarrassing amount of hours researching data tracking and reporting for Ombuds, as it's gotten so complex. And so I have been tracking since October a large amount of data. My issue is making sure that that's accurate data and classified correctly. So I don't want to provide data that is not classified correctly under the concern categories that don't quite make sense with everything else that the district is tracking or recording. So that will be work that I'm hoping to do very soon, is having those conversations within the district and with district leaders on just some of those questions I mentioned. What data is most valuable, and depending on the audience? What will people want to know? What will parents want to know? What will employees want to know? What do leaders want to know? And how can I communicate that the best way? So, that's information that I hope to needle down on very soon, do a bit more research. I've collected several annual reports from other K-12 ombuds, and they all do it a bit differently. It's based on the organization's preference and what they track internally otherwise. So I did not feel comfortable bringing those categories of concerns just yet. 6 months in, with a 6-month snapshot, I want to feel a bit more confident that I've classified and that classified those concerns correctly and in a way that makes sense. So in providing trends, there might be concerns that come to me from one family, but they have 3 topics of concerns. How should I be classifying that or tracking that in my data? The thought is that leadership would want to know all 3 categories. However, it can get quite confusing in regards to the details of how that all works. So that is why I've been holding back until I've had the full year, hopefully, of that data collection, and then hope to work closely with leaders to make sure I'm classifying it correctly in a way that makes sense for the district specifically, and would be mentioning those trends in the annual report after getting a whole year, school year's worth of data and potentially takeaways from that data. But that all is certainly up for discussion on what the district wants, what information do they want in this annual report, what's the most helpful, and I'm still figuring that all out. So much more to come on that. I wanted to mention too that I'm starting to, I've scheduled quarterly regular meetings with district leadership to provide quarterly updates as I'm going on trends like that. Any emerging issues or severe concerns that I'm seeing, that's something that I will be bringing quarterly to leadership, and again, open to feedback on those processes. So very good question. Hope to provide that very soon in a way that's very accurate and the most efficient, effective way.
Charlie, I'd build on Janet's answer a little bit. Is while we are working on the tracking piece, we have had those conversations. And so she has already come, and she mentioned that in the quarterly, but not even waiting until quarterly when there's things that she's seeing as trends coming from individuals. While we might still be trying to figure out how we're going to report it, she's coming and having those conversations. And so we're having that and making sure that we are, as she says, giving us an awareness of maybe what's emerging, what's taking place. I'd also tie this back to something that Matt was talking about earlier with high reliability schools and that Amy shared is we look at that level one of the school climate. The conversation that we've had is we see this as an opportunity where we can continue to embed that common language. We talk about high reliability schools being our school improvement model, but it does transcend outside the classroom. This is one of those areas where we see that can also be implemented. So we are talking that same language, so we can provide that data that no matter what we're reporting on, when we say something to you, you can look at it from a number of different offices, which is why we want to be diligent and take our time to get the right folks around the table to have those conversations.
Oh, great. Let's not take too much time.
No, I 100% hear you.
Go ahead, Jane.
Janet, I thank you for being here. We really appreciate the work that you're doing, and I really appreciate the time and the care that you're putting into developing the program and the integrity that you value, and the value that you put on relationships and building trust. I think that shows in that more than half of the people coming to you are employees. They trust you. Right. And I don't know if there was an avenue for those types of complaints before you were here, but I'm glad that you are here to field those so that our employees feel heard and so that you can not facilitate, but help them along the way as they perhaps resolve conflicts and improve their job satisfaction. So I think that role is very important. When I envisioned Ombuds, I envisioned it being students and parents coming to you. And so I was really kind of blown away to see that more than half are employees, and I think that's it's so valuable that you're here for them.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy that holistic approach as well, at trying to get at the whole picture of the school district and including employees and being able to bring their concerns. And last thing I'll mention is that the biggest compliment I get is when people come to me and they say, another employee really encouraged me to come speak to you, or another parent really encouraged me to speak with you. That means the world to me, that that word of mouth is very positive and that there seems to be trust there. In recommending them to come to me. So that when I hear that, I'm just so grateful to hear that that's what's happening. Yeah, thank you very much.
I have two thoughts, and I do have one question for you. The first thought was I was intrigued by the slide you had of how people are contacting you, whether it's in person or calling and emailing. And I've had the fortunate experience of having all three of those conversations with you. We met in person, we had a conversation on the phone, and then we had an email exchange. And I will tell you that after each one, I walked away saying, our district is in a better place because you're here. Your professionalism came through in all of those ways to communicate, and not everybody can do that well, and so I applaud you for that. My other thought is I'm also going to applaud you for putting a survey out there for feedback from the folks who met with you, because some of those folks are coming in from probably pretty difficult situations and may not have gotten the resolution that they wanted, and you might be the messenger that gets whacked for it, right? So I applaud you for asking, because I think it's very important for you to do, but it might not be all sunshine and
Yeah.
rainbows, right? So again, I applaud you for that. So my question is, and usually I think it's Director Malone that asks this question, is, or Charlie does too, how can we help you do your job? What things can the board do, or the administrative team? Like, what are things that you've kind of hit some hurdles that we might be able to help with? And maybe it's too soon to tell, but.
That's a tough question. I think it's a good thing that that's a tough question. I think it shows that I've just received, I'll name Matt as my direct supervisor. I've received immense support and guidance anytime I needed something from Matt, so I'm so thankful for that. But I guess too soon to tell. I've just been so thankful of how open individuals have been at any time I request to meet with someone. Sure thing, absolutely, what works for you. I have not had any issues, and I think that's where I would start to have concerns if people were not open to meeting with me. But certainly that's part of my role as well, to make sure people feel comfortable meeting with me and working with me so that I can work with all parties involved collaboratively. So I'm not quite sure at this time. I think that possibly when I have the annual report done, your point about the feedback survey, I welcome that feedback. That's something I've yet to do. I'll be sending that at the end of the school year, but I'm hoping that'll be very valuable, and hope to be very analytical and thoughtful in what questions I ask. So thank you for asking that. I don't have a response at this time, but I'll certainly think about it and let you all know. Everyone's just been so supportive, and I'm so thankful because, to JP's comment, not always is this a very warm welcome at any organization with an ombuds, especially ombuds and administrators. It can be a very tense relationship at times. So at this time, I don't have any.
I would definitely
thoughts.
say get back to us, right? Because,
Yeah.
We're in that honeymoon phase to a certain degree,
Right.
right? It's all new,
Absolutely.
and people are excited. And then I would say, I'm going to just throw out adages. The proof is in the pudding, right? If you're earning that trust by what you're offering folks, right? Because there, traditionally has been lack of trust, so people don't expect results sometimes when they come to talk to someone. And if you're delivering results, right, that's going to be the key to that trust, and it will continue to be a successful program, right? And so if we're talking about tracking and trending and things like that, if people stop coming to you, that would be the first trend I would want to know about, right? Because that's an indication that something has gone very wrong. But yeah, keep in touch with us and make sure that the things that we do don't make your job harder. That's what I always like to say.
Absolutely. I absolutely anticipate growing pains within this role, with any new role, that I'm continuing to learn, but I'm eager to learn and figure out how to be better in this role for the district and to better serve the community. So I appreciate that. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to miss one short opportunity to brag on her. She's a pro, and if you had a family member that needed something, you'd want Janet working with them. I mean, that's, I think, the highest compliment we could pay her. She just does an outstanding job, and she's been tremendous and very professional in her approach, but also super caring, empathetic, and compassionate to people. So we are better for having Janet on the team.
Absolutely. All right. So we move on into our action items. We have our FMP 2.0 timeline. And we're gonna look at pretty charts and stuff. Listen to Dwayne's dulcet tones.
I want to say welcome to the district, Janet. Do you want to come up and help me run this?
Well played.
And here's the guy we want building our buildings. So, yep.
Well, I'm going to open up 2 files here, and then we'll get rolling. That's one. Oh, no, that's the one I want. I was told that you went down and met all the managers at the physical plant. That's a pretty cool thing to do.
It was really cool. I enjoyed it.
You're going to find a lot of opinions down there.
Unlike the rest of the district, Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
You have a timer.
Can I stay as long as she did? No? I'm gonna be quick. All right, so we met, last time we met as a board was in December. We've had a couple work sessions since then. A lot of these, what you're gonna see as a result of those work sessions. I frankly am impressed with the amount of work that we got done in those sessions. You know, just to start with, you know, keeping the promise. We talked about that before, and some of the things that we need to finish hasn't changed. I realize that some of the projections for growth have leveled off, but I know darn well that with some of the developments that I see going in North Liberty and what's gonna happen west of I-380 in those areas there, even in the southeast part of town, that growth is not gonna be stable. It will pick up. Even though it may be older children, there's still gonna be a lot of students that come to school here. I think what I've seen happen in like Des Moines was when you see a lot of new suburbs, some of those are older families, but what happens is the older housing stock fills up with young families and children. So it's gonna continue to grow, I have no doubt about it, and no reason to back off on any of these classroom additions because they're in areas that will have growth or already full. For example, Horn, you know, it's just packed. We walked that with the architect a couple weeks ago, and that place is, it needs some more rooms. So in the new elementary schools, North Liberty, Coralville, Southwest, the southeast one I think is questionable at this point, and probably can be set aside for the moment. I just don't know that we can get more than 3 elementary schools built in this program. So unless things change, and I'll come back to part of that in a second. So we had our community inputs. The other thing that we did, Chase and Jeff and I met with all 3 of the high school principals, all 3 of the athletic directors. We also met with all 3 of the junior high principals. We got really good feedback from all of them and reviewed this plan with them. And that's one of the reasons we delayed this from March until April. And it was very productive, and I appreciate the time. I think we got a lot accomplished in those meetings. That's the old one. So as a result of the discussions, you know, I made some check marks here. You know, we talked about property and building acquisitions. We're going to continue to do that. We need to buy some property for some of our elementary schools. Grade configuration was the huge one. You know, going to a 6-8 middle school, personally, I think was a really, really good move. It does put a little bit of a challenge on the plan. You know, I mean, there's a lot to get done, but that was a big decision, and so that was huge. Early childhood, we're not abandoning it. We're just going to put them back in the elementary schools, so parents can do that one-stop shop, you know, instead of going 2 places. So we made some significant changes in the plan to accommodate that, and as I just said, growth. But the middle school frees up a lot of classroom space too, you know, so that's huge in that regard. So it served 2 purposes. We've awarded design contracts for all these projects except City High, which I think will be on the agenda at the next meeting. I got a little ahead of myself there, but we have started the career tech program there. But I will say at City High, we walked through that building with the principal that we've come up with a really good plan, I think, to convert the old kitchen. There's some spaces down there. They're a lot larger than I had envisioned, that we're going to be able to convert into classroom for career tech for a lot of different types of programs, not just culinary arts, but a lot of programs. So there's some really good space down there, and Jeff and his team have already started the shop project, or getting ready to, but it's going to be really nice, and I think that community should be happy. So that'll be coming here in the near future. Shimmick, we've got the multi-purpose room addition going. It's looking pretty good. Coralville Central, the architect met with Andy Gann today. They went over 3 or 4 options and picked one I think was really appropriate. Is to repurpose a classroom in the older part of the building and then create a new entrance. I think you'll like it when you see that. The middle schools, all 3 middle schools are well on their way. We met with Southeast Architect today. Last week I met on both Northwest and North Central. And those additions, I'm pushing them to pare them down just a little bit. They're a little bit, you know, a little fluff in there like they always are. So you do a little value engineering on the run like I like to do, but we're getting there. And I would tell you this, that when I went through the budget the last time with Chase, I did assign an additional $1 million per project for the middle schools. I just felt like the budgets were a little tight. It was $9 million plus like the kitchen in addition to that, or the media center, or the band room at Southeast. So I went back and made that 9 to 10 on this budget, just to kind of help that squeeze a little bit. I think it'll be well used, and I'm sure they'll spend it. At West High, we're gonna look at that whole new front entrance, a student commons area, which is popular at the high schools. The music area, which you had a music instructor come to one of our sessions this summer a couple times and talk about the quality of that area. Well, when they did the Fine Arts Edition way back in 2000 and 11, 10, they didn't really address the choir area. We're gonna do that. We're gonna fix that and make it right. So that's part of this plan. HVAC at City High in the auditorium, it really needs some help. At City High, I'm calling it phase 3, it's actually probably phase 4, but it's what we call the C wing. It's the wing that's on the northeast part of the building in the back. It hasn't been touched yet. It needs HVAC upgrades. It needs flooring. It needs ceilings. It needs new furniture in some places, and those types of things we're going to do to get that job done, in addition to working on the career tech. At Horn Elementary, we talked about that. We even talked to Horn, where are you going to go? It's a really tough site. You're going to go up and over and build this huge skeleton on the outside of the building to support the weight of the second floor? Or we came up with what I think is a better idea. We're actually going to go to the east, back into the hillside, and just cut into that hill and create a 2-story structure back there. There's already a corridor right next to the gym, and I stood there the other day and went, wow, that's it. Just right back into the hill, it's going to work. So it's funny how sometimes you can just sit and look at a project and it just kind of comes to everybody that's the right solution. So we're doing that. Hills Elementary, we're still talking. Chase and Jeff and I met with City Council last night and had an interesting discussion, which I guess we're going to share some other time. But we gave them 5 options. I think we're down to 2. They nixed one, we nixed one, we all nixed one. So there's 3 gone, 2 to go. So I think we'll get there. I did want to point out that with all this, you're going to need staff. You're going to need to hire another construction manager. We had 2 when we accelerated, and 1 retired. And I really think to get this done, we're going to need to hire some staff to do it. So I just wanted to remind you that you shouldn't let that get by you. So the new plan includes buying properties, the elementary schools, HVAC improvements, which will also improve the climate, the fossil fuel reduction in our buildings. There's totally in excess of 25 million total with all the HVAC improvements to do this. Technology across the district, including this room, I guess, might be part of that budget. Playgrounds, we do address playgrounds with Pebble, and we've done a really good job with it. But I'm thinking that playgrounds, to me, also includes athletic fields, practice fields, things like that. So it doesn't have to be specific to that elementary school playground. It's across all 12 grades or 13 grades. And athletic improvements as well. That was a big topic of discussions with the 3 principals and the athletic directors. Are always pushing for more. So I looked at that. We did put some money in here for kind of like a master plan at each school to see what's really best. They all have 3 different needs. Even Liberty has needs. They talked about an addition for girls wrestling, or another locker room, or expanding the fitness center is already crowded. That beautiful room on the northwest part of the building, they're outgrowing it. So there are things like that, even at Liberty, that we need to address. Lights at soccer fields at Liberty, lights on the soccer fields at City, the turf at City. All 3 have turf fields that need to be replaced, when they get to be 10, 12 years old. And that first turf field we did in the fall of 2012, it was right when I got here is when they finished that. And here it is 10 years later, we're talking about replacing it already. So they all have those issues. I mentioned the classroom additions, we have those needs. Security upgrades, continually upgrading security. The technology changes so fast. And I don't know that we have enough in here for that, but we use a lot of Pebble funds to do that as well. You remember back in 2013, before we started Facility Master Plan 1.0, we did a district-wide security upgrade, and we spent over $10 million doing that at the time, and spent several million since then improving it. So it's an ongoing thing. We have to keep doing that. I put the physical plan on here, and it's last but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. You know, we have a building down there that's aging. We also have a building that needs a fire sprinkler system and some other things improved to keep up with the district. So you just can't ignore your physical plant. And I figured, oh, I'm not here anymore. I guess I can go ahead and say it. We need to do it. You know, we need to fix some physical plant things there. And I put it towards the end of the program, but we cannot ignore that. We need to have a good facility for that. It's an 8-year plan. I reduced it from 10 years to 8 years. I had it spread out, and I said, you know, you heard me talk about this $30 million a year, and it works on an 8-year plan. And I said, we can do this in 8 years. We've done it before. We can do it again. And I think it's the reason I say that is because I don't want to fight inflation any more than we have to. Or you shouldn't have to fight inflation. By reducing it from 10 to 8, the last time I know we saved the district millions of dollars. And I can say that, and even during the bond program, I took Southeast Kitchen off of this plan and reduced it to 270 million. It was 273. And that's because we're going to use some bond dollars that we had left over. We didn't spend them all. And so you can spend them on those same projects, Southeast needed a kitchen that we left off, so we slowed that over. So I removed it from this plan. Doesn't mean it isn't going to be done. It's just we're going to do it with bond dollars. And the best part of this plan, no general obligation dollars, none. We've got the money to pay for this with the incoming sales tax and bonding against the future revenues. And 270 million is a lot, but there's still some beyond that that can be used for FMP 3 or 4 or however far you go with this. So there's still funds available for that. The 270 I think is really the right number. Let me bring up the other file here. Easier to read, I think. There it is. No, maybe not. Let's zoom out a little bit. So, you know, and you all have a copy of this electronically, and you can go down that left-hand column, and I need to go normal. There you go. So you go down that left-hand column, and at the bottom, I wanted to take you there because that's probably the most important. That lower left-hand corner is 270,700,000. That's with the reduction of the Southeast Kitchen. But the big number that I really want to point out to you is that there is a contingency in this project of over $20 million. If you look right here in line 137, that's just a contingency. We paid for all the new schools. We paid for the land of this plan. We paid for all the additions. We're paying for the athletic improvements. All the things we've been talking about are in this plan. But yet we were able, out of this 270, carve a contingency of 20 million, which I don't have no doubts that we'll figure out how to use. If it isn't nothing other than inflation and supply chain issues, it's there, and it's a good thing to have. And I would say to you that when we do these budgets for these schools, they all have a 5% contingency. When we lay out our master spreadsheet and our projects down the physical plant, they've always had a 5% contingency. And some of the remodels I've even put higher. But, so we have that project contingency for change orders. This is above and beyond that, okay? This 20 million is wouldn't call it discretionary money. It's just kind of like a savings account that you can use if you need to, okay? So there's $250 million worth of projects on here, which includes $10 million at bottom line for some kind of district multi-use facility or new building, which I'm not going to get into, but it's there. So that's one of the big items. But I think as I scroll back up here, there's $3 million site improvements. There's still 19.5 in HVAC, but that's because I've already assigned HVAC to Horner, HVAC to Lemmy, HVAC to other projects, City High, West High. So I've already assigned a lot of those projects with HVAC improvements, so that's been reduced. District infrastructure is the physical plant, technology, food service, health clinics, all those things are in district infrastructure. Technology we talked about, playgrounds we talked. There's money there for the athletics at all the buildings. Never enough to satisfy them, but enough to get the basic things done that we felt were adequate, right, Chase? They'd take it all if we gave it to them. Preschool rooms, $5 million, and that's for additions onto elementary schools to be determined. You know, you have, if we're gonna vacate sixth grade classrooms, we're gonna be able to repurpose those rooms, but they're probably not the best rooms for preschool. So, you know, preschool room is even more generous in space than a kindergarten room to meet state code. So we have some money there. We could build a lot of additions with $5 million. Lincoln, if they decide to build classrooms, it'd be off that new entrance that some of you were there. You know, we had that celebration, and off of that new entrance straight to the, I would call it to the east, I guess, there's room for a classroom addition. Alexander, classroom additions, Hoover, Wood, Lucas, Longfellow, Lemmy, Horn, they're all in there. Southeast, on the sixth grade addition, the band and music expansion, that was the area we left off the project, so we need to pick that up. At Northwest, we're including the kitchen. At North Central, we have the sixth grade addition, plus in that 11.5 are some funds for site improvements. We're gonna push into that parking lot a little bit on the west side of the building, so we need to repurpose some of that money and build some new parking areas. We've already got the civil engineer working on them. And we've got some options we'll be bringing to you. And by the way, all three of these schools, we're gonna be bringing the schematics to you very soon. They're really getting close on a project. I really like what I saw at Southeast today. I just liked it. It looked good. So that's coming, and you know, I'm not always easy to please, but I really did like that. I think Jeff did too. It was pretty sharp. And at North Central, they've come up with a really creative idea for building on the west side of the school, for expanding the kitchen and the cafeteria to accommodate the additional students. At Northwest, if you can imagine the entire east side of that building, there's kind of like a church over to the east, and there's a wing going down that whole east side of the building to tie all that in. The challenge there, those classrooms have windows in them. And if we build another row of classrooms, you've cut off the windows that you put in that everybody that really covets at Northwest. You know, I mean, there are few rooms with real windows. So we figured out a way to build a center hallway, put some clear story lights in to bring natural light down into the corridors and back into the classrooms. So my time's up. You're telling me.
I'm just, no, these are all exciting projects, and Dwayne does great work. We will come back to you and talk to you more in depth about all the projects. It is really good. But let's just open to these specific questions you have, and then we will.
Right, but before I throw it out to directors on like any project questions, I know one of the things that we talked about early on, right, was we needed to make some decisions before we could put all this together, you know, and I'm seeing the purple on there and the light blue was some decisions. I know we've talked about grade configuration and early childhood stuff. What kind of discussions are we still needing to have in terms of property and things like that? And then the online school one, have we landed on what we're doing there?
I think that's dependent on if we buy an additional space.
Because that's happening sooner than later, right? They're losing their building.
Yeah, we have some options inside the district we'd look at right now if we had to. Dwayne's alluding to the fact, right, that if we look at acquiring a multi-use educational facility, then that would be a potential landing spot for the online school too. So there's a couple options in play there. We'd feel comfortable, you know, about either of those, and we'll probably be presenting something to you soon or following up with a conversation around the multi-use educational facility. But yeah, grade level configuration preschool, I think we made those decisions, right? We kind of know where we're going. We know how to build that into the plan. That's the work that now has allowed Dwayne and the team to put the rest of this together.
Yeah, I was mostly concerned about, well, I mean, like the online school, right? It's listed there as winter, you know, that I hope winter's over with. Right, there's something we need to decide, and I don't know that we ever decided it. So I want to make sure that we weren't stalling out on everything else. Like, we're moving forward on that project with the old Hoover building, and then, you know, what other land purchase type conversations we need to have. If we need to have them sooner than later, we should make sure we get that
Well, we are moving.
scheduled sometime.
We are moving forward with the City High demo at Hoover and the tennis courts. You approved, I think, tonight, a public hearing. And I think at the next meeting, you're gonna see the schematic drawings for that already. So we're assuming that building's coming down at the end of May or 1st of June.
Right.
So we're gonna have to decide where online goes.
All right. Now let other directors jump in.
Here's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
I want to talk about that North Liberty Elementary School. And I know it's on your radar, Dwayne, but I want to make sure that I mention it. I'm concerned about the rate of growth that's going on. I saw on the chart that it's not going to be completed, I think, until 2026. That for Evergreen Heights project, which is the 1,002 units, has already started building units.
Yep.
They've got 270 planned. And what did you tell me for the equation? One for every 4?
It's, generally, they would figure a half a student per household. I mean, you can figure, they used to say 1.5 for young families, but at a very minimum, a half a student per house.
So with 270 units, that's what, 130-some students?
Yeah.
So Penn, and that is zoned to go straight to Penn. In 2018, before Grant was open, Penn was at 501 students, and they were at capacity. They were bursting at the seams, and they moved 100 students out and put them up at Grant, which is great. Now, 2021 this fall, we're already back up at 483. So if you add 130 new kids in the next year, and some of them, I guess, will go to Liberty and North Central, but you only have capacity to add less than 20 kids before they're bursting at the seam again. And I did not run the numbers for Grant or Van Allen or Gardner, but I wonder if they're the same. I'm just concerned about that new elementary not being open until 2026.
Well, I think I have an answer for it.
You're going to move it up?
No, well, you could. It's totally up to you guys, but you know, I've been up in North Liberty, and I call it the Scanlon development. It's up there off of North Liberty Road. And if you go south in Coralville, they're building houses in that development that used to be called the Scanlon Farms down there in the south of the high school. So there's developments, and I agree with you totally. The saving grace might be that we're moving 400 kids to North Central, and we're opening up some classrooms. But that doesn't mean, you know, that North Central can absorb all those extra students of that age group, but at least at the elementary schools with Grant, Penn, Van Allen, and Garner, you know, you're gonna free up, in theory, 12 classrooms, maybe more, for students. That helps a little bit. But I would say to you that this, even though it says 26, realistically, if we started planning it today, because it's raw ground, that it could be done in the fall of 25. And that might work out, because 24 is when those kids, we're gonna vacate those 3 schools, and we're gonna get them done, and we're gonna move those kids. 25 might be the year that you could open up a new school in North Liberty. We certainly have the site, we just have to plan it.
So Lisa, the only thing I'd offer, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but as we shared, I think Adam did about a month ago, that we're in the middle of getting new enrollment projections, and we're kind of phasing that out, and so we're in the middle of getting those reports. We'll have a presentation ready for the board in the fall or late in the fall, and that'll also give us a better idea of that growth. I know that we see on the ground, but then have a better idea of where that is and help project that out. And so while this is the timeline we are right now, what Dwayne's kind of sharing is it's not stagnant, but I think we'd want that to inform our data too, as we see those projections over the next 10 years, growth where it is. If we need to come back and revisit this, we're gonna have that flexibility to do that. But I think given where we are, and that's out right now, we'd want to get that data before we'd go ahead and make any different timeline projections.
No, I agree with that, but I also don't want us to be looking at our enrollment numbers for the last 2 years, 3 years, and not anticipate this significant growth that I think is going to happen
Sure.
in North Liberty. And it's what you said, Dwayne. Of course it's going to grow because they're building it. And so they think that somebody's going to buy it, and there's going to be 270 new units. I drive by Scanlon Farms for Evergreen Heights every day. They've already got 3 or 4 houses up, like almost built. So they're coming. We don't need to build it, and they'll come. They're coming, and I just want to make sure that our North Liberty elementary schools don't have a year and a half of really painful, tight space.
Yep. Well, you don't want to bring all the modulars back.
Correct. Again, because before Grant opened, it was tight up there.
I think the thing I'd just say, Lisa, is we're aware of that, right? And so I think trying to look at those different data points, like you said, about what we're seeing, what's going to be in the enrollment projections that aren't just our enrollment projection. They look at live birth data, they look at the growth in the community, housing plots, all of those things are factors for us to try to shoot that, knowing that the middle school model is going to create some additional space in building, you know, and how does all of those things sync up to Chase's point about knowing that it's not a stagnant plan. So if we look at those data points as we get further into this and we need to bring something back that would suggest a change, we'll certainly do that, right? Because I think we'd agree with you, those are things we want to avoid.
But we also can't rely too much on the middle school model, because the thought there too is that a lot of those spaces will go to early childhood rooms that don't exist now, not to growth. Just again, everyone knows this, but I just want to make sure that it's all at the front of our minds.
It'll help temporarily, but not for long.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good time to remind us all that one of the reasons we asked for this to be on here as an action item, right, was to make sure that we're all holding ourselves accountable for when things change. We have to very publicly talk about it and the reasons for why we need to change it, so we can then vote again to move stuff around, as opposed to, yeah, this seems good, and then stuff just kind of slides around willy-nilly, right? I think it's important for us to have those conversations as enrollment projections come in, or holy crap, this school's going to be way too big, things like that, that we need to have those very public conversations and, you know, take another vote to change some stuff around, because everything's a give and a take. So if you're moving something forward, chances are you're moving something else back, right? And there has to be a good conversation as to why that's happening. So that's the real reason why it's even on the agenda today for a vote. So I don't know that there's a great need to shuffle it all around tonight, in, you know, my own opinion, knowing that we will have to be, you know, proactive and reactive as we move forward in time. So
FNP 1.0, we changed at least 3 times and maybe 4 times over that 8-year period, so it's going to change.
Yeah, just for my own knowledge, I was going to ask Lisa, especially, Lisa, not to put you on the spot, but is this plan for the preschool room modifications, I guess?
The 5 million?
Yeah.
That's for modifications and or additions, either one.
Okay. So do you think that that's adequate for the schedule? We would like to start preschool work in the district.
I think we'll know more after this upcoming year.
So that's to be decided yet. Okay.
Yeah.
And
But Dwayne said he had 20 million of contingency?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
So Lisa has spent it already.
Degner's really excited to, that was good face math.
So then for Dwayne and maybe Chase, the rest of the team, do you think I should have a great deal of confidence that with this build-out plan, we will not be needing temporary classrooms or modular units in any of the elementary or junior high schools?
You want me to?
Not. If we're not there yet, is there a way we can get there?
You talk about a tough question. It depends on the growth, and if we can stay ahead with the additions. I don't know. There may be some projects that will require them to displace students during construction. That still may happen. So will they go away 100%? I don't think so. But can we reduce our reliance on them? Yes. And that's not much of an answer, but it's the best one I can give you.
Well, it's an answer.
Which kind are you thinking of? Which ones are you worried about?
Well, I'm not in no particular school, any of them actually.
Well, it's different
we
than...
get, we get complaints at any school that's using
I think
temporary classrooms.
what Dwayne's talking about there too, Charlie, is how do we continue to try to stay ahead of it? That if they're temporary, they're actually temporary. That it's not, that's the solution for the campus long term, right? And so I think that's what we're going to continue to run into. And then in some places, yeah, we may need to use them as a temporary one because either growth has maybe gotten ahead of when the facility project is going to be, or we're using them as a transitional space while we do additional work. But if they have to be employed, and we know the hesitancy around wanting to do that, it's only to be a temporary solution. It's not that we park it there and that's the long-term solution. That's what we're trying to really avoid with doing these projects.
Even at Liberty High School, we put $3 million here for a classroom addition at Liberty because we just added one, right? But I don't know that we're done growing there based on what,
Well, to me, the transitional issue is understandable.
Yeah.
Right, that it's not keeping ahead of the growth for that building. It's a little bit more problematic, so.
All right. We'll give everybody one last shot at a comment or a question. And then I'm going to entertain a motion.
I move that we pass the FMP 2.0 timeline.
Second.
Kim?
Online voting is open.
Sure it is.
It really is. I was just going to say, is anybody going to vote?
It's not coming up.
Nope, let me close it and open it again. Oops.
Is it coming up?
No,
Okay.
let's try again.
It's just you, Maka.
Thanks, Ronnie.
No.
Well, I can do a verbal roll call, yes. Clausen.
Aye.
Malone.
Aye.
Istone.
Yay.
Eastham.
Aye.
Williams. Aye. Finch.
Yay.
Pilcher Hayek.
Yay.
All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, and we have one other action item, which is our certified budget. We just had our public hearing earlier. Any context you want to add, Leslie? I think we've covered it pretty well.
Everything that you have in front of you is what you saw a couple of weeks ago when we provided the presentation at that point. So I will be much briefer than Dwayne, and there you have it.
Oh, we're just taking digs on everybody. All right, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the proposed certified budget and tax certification.
Second.
All right, Kim, let's try this again.
Let's try it again. Here we go. I'm sorry, who was the second?
Charlie.
Charlie.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thanks, Kim. Next up, we have our Director Liaison report. I didn't know if there's anything folks would want to highlight.
Just one. Our celebratory season kicks off with the DPO scholarship recognition reception that will be held over Zoom. I have it on my calendar and fingers crossed that work doesn't interfere with that happy moment, but they emailed us, so I would just recommend that if anybody has the time in their schedule to try and jump on Zoom, because like I said, that's like the kickoff to the happy times of the district.
Is that this Thursday?
Yep. April 14th.
3:45.
Wow. Anything else directors want to highlight? All right, let's move into agenda setting. We do have an Ed Committee meeting next week at the Kirkwood Regional Center. I'm very excited. I haven't been able to be there in quite some time, so I'm excited to go see that. I think that'll be a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then on the 26th, as I mentioned, we do have a P&G committee, and apparently Kim just put the rest of the series on our agenda to hit.
Just for you.
No, we are trying to compress it to make sure we can try and get it done this year. We'll probably get as far as we can get within our time frame, and hopefully, we get pretty far along with it. If we don't get done, we don't get
We're
done.
very optimistic
Yeah,
about
whatever we get done, we'll bring it, forward for the first reading to the board. But that's, the rest of them are on there. So then we do have our regular board meeting on the 26th. We have our second education showcase on there, so I'm excited to see what that brings. And as I just mentioned, all the policy reviews are on there. And we will kind of take action on the 600s, assuming that the review goes well. But other than that, it's pretty light. Policy review I suppose can get timely. But any things folks need to see added there?
I have a couple of things. I think, and I think maybe, I talked with Matt about this week, and you and your team may not be ready for this yet, but when you are, I think what we would really like to see is what the sixth grade and the middle school configuration is going to look like with the curriculum, if this is going, if they'll be, you know, the same as 7th and 8th grade, or this is going to be sort of a transitional year, if they'll be passing in the hallways, what exactly their day is going to look like and what their curriculum is going to look like. And then also the Be Smart resolution that we passed a few meetings back. I know our plan was to roll that out in the fall with the start of school with our education of parents. I'm just wondering if we can move that up and do that a little bit sooner. In terms of educating about proper gun storage before the summer session.
Yeah, I think a couple things there, Jane. You know, for a while last year, kind of before I think COVID evolved again, and we got a lot of different things thrown at us. We kind of have a parking lot of items, and so that's kind of where I would see making sure we keep that junior high, middle school conversation, right, so that when we are ready, we do not lose bringing that back to you, because I do think there's good reason we should have that conversation around that sixth grade one. So definitely include that there, and then the Be Smart one. Yeah, I think that's something Kristen and I can easily work on about how could we get some information out potentially here before the end of the year. It may not be to the level of what's noted in that resolution where you directed me, but even if we could just start to provide an information vehicle for people, I think that would be good. And we can probably just do that out. We can certainly agenda it and give you an update, or you can wait to see the communication that comes from the district on that, but I think it'd be a good thing to do too. Yep.
Great, great. Thanks, Amy.
All right. Thanks, Jane. Anyone else? Going, gone. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a good night.